Are you ready for our main event, Dutch?
Yes, I am. I've been waiting for this. Let's talk about Mr. CM Punk.
Let's talk
And I,
about
ha-
Mr.
I
CM
and
Punk.
and I have some theories on that too.
Yeah, because there
Yes,
has
I
been a
do.
theory advanced by Jim Cornette, but we'll find out what your theory is in a bit. I have to read a bit of preamble, so bear with me. So, Tony Khan has binned off CM Punk after a number of incidents that, whether he was in the right or in the wrong, always involved CM Punk. We will talk about those reasons a little later, but here is Tony Khan's statement on CM Punk's firing on Saturday's AEW Collision show. Today, I had to make one of the toughest decisions of my professional career. Today, I terminated Phil Brooks, CM Punk, for cause. This stems from a backstage incident at AEW All In last Sunday. The incident was regrettable and it endangered people backstage. That includes the production staff, the people who help put the show on every week, innocent people who had nothing to do with it. I've been going to wrestling shows for over 30 years. I've been producing them on this network for nearly 4 years. Never in all that time have I ever felt until last Sunday that my security, my safety, my life was in danger at a wrestling show. I don't think anybody should feel that way at work. I don't think the people I work with should feel that way, and I had to make a very difficult choice today. It came at the recommendation of a discipline committee here in AEW, as well as outside legal counsel, who delivered a unanimous recommendation, and I have followed up on that recommendation. I'm sorry to any fans who are upset by this. I'm sorry to anyone who's upset by this. Did you say that twice in a row? Despite that, we're going to have a great show tonight at Collision, and we're going to have a great all-out blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that's the main gist of it. So, Tony Khan, feared for his life. Do I need to say any more, or, I mean, you can pick it up from there, I'm sure.
Well, how long has the CM Punk debacle been going on?
Well, the first fight
Over,
was last September, so a year.
yeah, a year. And people were saying, you need to get rid of him. You need to do something about him because he had opposition within the company. The Young Bucks and Omega and Cody was already gone by then, which brings to mind Cody saw all this coming, I think. And he says, I'm going to take a hop while the hopping's good and get out of here and let them deal with it later. So, and people have told him that CM Punk is difficult to work with. But I guess he didn't believe him, I guess. And now it's come to this. And people saw this coming a long time ago. I said, no, that when you have two shows like Collision and Rampage, and you can't put your top guys on the one on Collision because, CM Punk, he was barred from Rampage. He couldn't even go there.
Or Dynamite.
Dynamite. I'm sorry. Rampage is the Friday night show. But why would you get a new show, but you can't put but select members of the crew on the Saturday night show because they have heat for CM Punk. Now, CM Punk, granted, they got this because of one Bill Will or one Bill, what do you call him? One Bill Phil? Or,
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
and he wanted him on the show, the head of TNT, I guess.
Yeah. Warner Brothers Media, I think, were very insistent that.
And they wanted him, and that's how he got there. But I've been watching their show, and I've been watching Rampage too. Not bad shows. I mean, not horrible. But everybody said, now this is before the run in London. Everybody said the worst thing you're going to find out is when you run into Saturday night during football season, you're going to hit a big block and you're not going to be able to get around it. Now, Tony Khan actually, the football season hit and he had this trouble with Punk, and he got up in Chicago. This was a Saturday night show, right? This was Collision, right?
Yeah, this was actually on CM Punk's show Collision, and then the next day the pay-per-view was in Chicago.
And how many viewers did they lose when they announced that CM Punk will not be on the show tonight?
That is we will talk about, because I've got quite a lot of questions about the ratings, but that's a little further on down in the list of things. We'll talk about the ratings in a bit. I know they lost a lot. But before we move off, what I want to mention here is feared for my life. Tony Khan said in the statement, it seems a little heavy-handed to basically say someone lunged at you.
Who said the lunge? Was that Meltzer?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple of quotes now. So, Sports Illustrated reported that Punk was fired by AEW after Tony Khan, quote, felt physically threatened by Punk at all during his attempt to get Punk refocused on his match with Samoa Joe. Unlike prior occasions, Khan was unable to effectively communicate or reason with Punk, and eyewitness accounts supporting Khan's claim further ended any chance that Punk would return to AEW. And Dave Meltzer reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Punk was screaming and swearing at the AEW CEO while also saying he was quitting AEW. It was suggested that Punk lunged, quote-unquote, in Khan's direction after the altercation with Perry this is Jungle Boy Jack Perry, was broken up, but several people got in Punk's way. Tony Khan was also reportedly hit by fallen monitors during the fracas. Oh, well, how do you say? Fracas or fracas? How do you say it?
Fracas, I guess.
Yeah. Don't
use those big words.
With Jack Perry and Khan became involved, yelling at Punk to let the former Jungle Boy go. Meltzer has since noted that he toned down the language when reporting on Punk's lunge, saying on the Wrestling Observer Radio podcast, "If you saw the actual wording of what was said, lunging was, I was toning it down. It was more than lunging." Is it flying?
Wait a minute. He said, I toned down the language when I use lunging, but he was more like lunging at. I don't get that.
I mean, I garbled the sort of quote there slightly, but he said it was lunging plus. So maybe he had a trampoline and like jumped towards him or something.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Okay, Dave. I was going to say Dave Meltzer. CM Punk went and start.
But he never grabbed Tony. We never heard a report that he actually grabbed him, right?
I can't remember where I've heard it from, but there's a possibility he did.
Well, is this the first fight that Tony Khan has ever seen? And it may have been the first fight that he ever come close to being in one. I do believe that. So it got me to thinking, wait a minute. If he was this scared and upset about CM Punk, what would he have done in this business 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Then he had the Bruiser Brodies. Then he had the Stan Hansens and the Abdullahs. And he had the Afa and Sika. And then he had the Road Warriors. Plus, I'm just saying, guys that were tough. He had the Dick Slaters and the Paul Orndors, who were kind of on edge all the time anyway. What would he have done then? So I think at that moment, Tony reevaluated himself and his investment. And he said, I don't know if this is worth it or not. That's what I think. Now, let's go a little farther. Punk, I think, was going to sue them about 6 months ago, and they got all that smoothed over. Tony still wanted to bring him back. He brought him back and started him on this show. And it didn't get any better. Not at all. Now, who's he? They said they had what kind of panel did they have that reviewed this?
Some sort of disciplinary committee.
Now, who is that? Who is that?
It's not been revealed who it was, but do you know who I think was probably on it? May well have been the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, considering that they're EVPs.
No kidding.
Unanimous it was that they suggested to get rid of Punk. Tony Khan was saying that he went to his lawyers, he went to the disciplinary committee, who we don't know was on the disciplinary committee, and then he said he has taken, what a word, he has taken their advice to fire CM Punk. And do you know what? I would think I would have more respect for Tony Khan, and if he just went, fuck CM Punk, he tried to grab me and hit me, so I fired him. Suck it. You know what I mean? Why? in the end, he says the decision alone, eventually came to me to make the final decision. But I'd just be like, forget all these disciplinary committees. We don't need one. How about I'm the boss. You put hands on the boss. See you later.
How long on this podcast have I been preaching Tony Khan needs to be the boss?
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan needs to take control of his own company, because that's what Vince does. Vince said it's going to be my way. When it goes to Vince and he rules one way or the other, that's the way it is. There's no disciplinary committees. There's no more anybody else looking at it from another stance. Vince's word that's what they go by. Now, I don't know his position exactly right now, but I would think if Triple H made up his mind about something, that's what they're going to do.
But you got to respect
everybody
that more.
Everybody in WWE knew that if you had an issue and it went to Vince, whatever answer comes back, that's the answer. Leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go in there and try to rehash it, or he'll just send you home. He's ruled one way, and that's the way it should be. Right or wrong, you're going to have to live with it.